3 weeks later, a man on a park bench would stare at my wrist and say, "Take it off." Now, I didn't know him. I didn't know why his voice shook. All I knew was that the bracelet suddenly felt heavier than it should. But that's skipping ahead. My name is Marianne Holt. I am 62 years old. Widowed. Living alone longer than I ever planned. Most days are quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. There's a difference. You learn that when your phone stops ringing unless you're the one calling first. Sometimes my neighbor, Lila, waves from her porch. But I usually just wave back and head inside. I wasn't ready for company. Not yet. So when my daughter called and said she was planning a birthday dinner for me, I honestly froze. I checked the calendar twice. Same date, same name, my birthday. She hadn't done that in years. I told myself not to read into it. Then I absolutely did. The dinner was small, just us. She cooked. Actually cooked. The apartment smelled like butter and garlic, and I remember thinking how strange it was that something so normal felt special again. She smiled, asked how I was sleeping, touched my arm when she laughed. I swear, that alone almost got me. I kept waiting for the catch. Some paperwork, some favor, some bill. Nothing came. And here's the stupid part. I let myself believe this meant something. I didn't even fight it. I needed it too badly. Have you ever felt that the relief of being chosen again? Even if you don't know why. After dinner, she said she had a gift for me. That's when she reached into her bag. She gave it to me on a random Tuesday, weeks before my actual birthday. I thought the gift would come at the dinner she'd been talking about. But the dinner wasn't the beginning. The real trap had been set weeks earlier. In my own kitchen. We were standing in my kitchen. I remember the low hum of the fridge and the smell of old coffee. She pulled a small box from her bag and set it on the counter. Slow, deliberate, like timing mattered. "I found this while cleaning," she told me. Her voice was light, careful. "I wanted you to start wearing it now, so it doesn't feel new on the day." That should have felt odd. It didn't. I was still floating from the call, from the idea that I mattered again. She opened the box. Inside was a bracelet. Silver, thin, a little worn around the clasp. Nothing flashy, nothing expensive. That actually made it easier to trust. She picked it up and looked at me. Really looked. Then she said, "It's not worth much, but it carries my feelings. I want you to wear it every day so our bond never fades." I didn't answer right away. My throat closed up. Stupid. I know. It's a bracelet. But when you've been alone long enough, meaning sneaks up on you. "Let me," she added, already moving closer. She fastened it herself. Her fingers lingered longer than necessary. Not affectionate. Just firm, like she wanted to make sure it stayed. "Don't take it off," she told me. "It's easy to lose things at your age." That landed wrong. Just for a second. Then I laughed it off, let her joke, let her care. I nodded. Promised I'd wear it. All the time. And here's the part I hate admitting. I slept with it on that night. Rolled over, felt the metal press into my wrist, and smiled in the dark. I know. You're probably already seeing what I refused to. The surveillance started the next morning. "You're wearing it." "Right." No, hello, just that single text before I'd even finished my coffee. I smiled, touched the silver band, and typed back a heart. Habit is a powerful thing. It makes you mistake obsession for care. By dinner, the messages became a phone call. Her voice was casual, but it had a sharp, metallic edge. "You still have it on, Mom, even when you sleep. What do you think I am? A child?" I laughed, expecting her to join in. She didn't. "I just don't want it lost. It's important to me." Important. Not me. The bracelet. That night, the metal pressed into my skin as I turned over. I thought about setting it on the nightstand, but I didn't. At 62, I still craved the approval of the child I'd raised. I tucked my hand under the pillow and let the cold silver bite into my wrist, calling it love. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because I was folding laundry when it hit. Warm, sudden. I leaned over the sink and watched the water turn pink, then red. Not dramatic, just steady. Like my nose had decided this was normal now. By the end of the week, it happened every day. The urgent care doctor barely looked up from the chart. Dry air does this, he told me, especially at your age. He suggested a humidifier and sent me home. It didn't stop. My primary care doctor ordered blood work, then more blood work, then sent me for imaging. 15 tests in total. I counted because I needed something solid to hold on to. Platelets normal, clotting normal, blood pressure fine, everything fine. One doctor tapped her pen against the desk and sighed. Stress can manifest physically, she explained, especially after loss, like my husband. Like I hadn't been managing that for years already. So what do? I asked. She smiled in that tired way people do when they've run out of answers. Try to rest. Use saline. We'll monitor it. Monitor. That word followed me home. The bleeding kept coming. Morning, afternoon, sometimes twice before dinner. I started carrying tissues in every pocket. My neighbor noticed once and flinched when I waved it off. I told her it was nothing. I hated how easily that lie came out. I called my daughter after the third appointment. I kept my voice calm, factual. They ran a lot of tests. I told her, they can't find a cause. She exhaled, sharp. Mom, you're stressing yourself out. It's happening every day. It's probably just the change in weather. Mom, she replied. Don't stress yourself out. You know how your nerves can make everything feel worse than it is. I almost told her about the bracelet then. Almost. Instead, I apologized for worrying her. After that call, something shifted. Not fear. Focus. I bought a notebook, cheap paper, blue cover. I wrote down dates, times, how long the bleeding lasted, what I was doing when it started. I looked at the dates. The red marks in my notebook started aligning perfectly with the day she clipped that silver band onto my wrist. A chilling coincidence I tried to ignore. Doctors hadn't asked about metal. No one mentioned toxins. They weren't wrong. There was no reason to look. Still, my body kept insisting. Quick pause. I know this sounds obsessive. Writing things down like I was building a case against my own nose. But when people keep telling you everything is fine, you start collecting proof that it's not. I closed the notebook and looked at my wrist. The skin underneath the bracelet looked irritated, slightly green around the clasp. I rubbed it with my thumb until the color faded. That night, the bleeding came back right before bed. I told her on a Thursday. I waited until the bleeding stopped so my voice wouldn't shake. I even rehearsed it. Short, calm, reasonable. That was the plan. They ran a lot of tests. I told her over the phone, everything looks normal, but it keeps happening. She went quiet for a beat. That's scary. She replied, her tone softened, just enough to pull me in. Are you resting? I am. I just thought you should know. Another pause. Longer this time. Mom, she said, slower now. You can't spiral every time something feels off. It's every day. Her sigh came sharp, irritated. You're focusing on it too much. Stress does that. I'm not stressed. I pushed back. I'm bleeding. That's what happens when you fixate. She snapped. Then she caught herself. Too late. Look, doctors cleared you. That should be enough. I swallowed. I just wanted you to listen. I am listening, she insisted. But we also need to be practical. Practical. That word again, She sighed. This is why we need to have everything in order. Mom, the paperwork I sent last month, it's for your peace of mind. So you don't have to worry about these episodes. My grip tightened on the phone. Why, I'm just thinking ahead, she replied. You know, planning. It's responsible. Responsible. Another word that landed wrong. I'm not dying, I told her. I didn't say you were, she shot back. But things happen at your age. There it was. Age. Not concern. Not fear. Calculation. We ended the call awkwardly. No goodbye. Just a click. I sat there for a long time afterward, staring at my notebook. Dates. Times. Patterns. The symptoms stayed quiet for the first 10 days. Then, the bleeding started, creeping into the third week until it became my new, terrifying normal. The reminders, the insistence, the way she'd checked if I was wearing it, like it mattered more than how I felt. I hate that this is where my mind went. I really do. No mother wants to line up facts against her own child. It feels disloyal, ugly, like betrayal in reverse. Quick pause here. Have you ever defended someone so hard that you ignored what was right in front of you? I didn't accuse her. I didn't confront her. But her? I did something quieter. I turned the page and circled the date I started wearing the bracelet full time. Then I underlined the day the bleeding began. Not hard, just once. After that, I stopped calling her about my health, and I started paying attention instead. I went to Laurelhurst Park because it was close, and because my head wouldn't shut up. That's the honest reason. I needed air that wasn't my living room. I sat on a bench near the path, hands folded in my lap like I was waiting for instructions. I kept my left wrist tucked in. Habit now. The bracelet felt warmer than the rest of me. You mind if I ask you something? The voice came from my right, an older man, thin, baseball cap, paperback folded in half like he'd been pretending to read. I shrugged. Sure. He pointed. Careful, not touching. That bracelet? How long have you been wearing it? I hesitated. Why, I worked in chemical analysis for 40 years, he replied. Calm, not dramatic, mostly metals, old ones. I pulled my hand back. It's just jewelry. I know. He nodded once. That's why I noticed it. Noticed what? I wanted to say. Instead, I held my wrist out again, against my better judgment. He leaned closer. Not into my space. Just enough. See the discoloration near the clasp, that greenish tint? That's not normal oxidation for silver. I laughed. I did. Reflex. It's old. So are a lot of poisons. He replied. Flat. No edge. Some antique alloys used metals we don't allow near skin anymore. My chest tightened. Like what? He watched my face as he spoke. I don't know what's in that specific alloy, but I've seen that exact shade of oxidation in industrial waste. It's a chemical reaction, not a fashion statement. And it's reactive with your skin. I stared at him. You're saying this thing is poisoning me. I'm saying it could be. He replied. And if you've been wearing it constantly, that matters. I stood up too fast. My vision tilted for a second. He noticed. I'm not accusing anyone. He added quickly. I'm warning you. Big difference. I looked at my wrist again. The skin near the clasp was faintly green, like a bruise that hadn't decided what it wanted to be yet. Take it to a lab, he continued. Private if you can. Don't wait for a doctor to suggest it. They won't unless they're looking for it. I swallowed. Why tell me? He folded his book. Slow. Because I'd rather be wrong than quiet. I nodded. Once. My hand shook as I lowered it. I didn't argue. I didn't thank him. I just sat back down and stared at the bracelet like it had teeth. I was still sitting when he leaned forward again, closer this time. His voice dropped. Lost the casual edge. You need to take that off, he told me. I didn't move. Now, he added, sharp, no cushion. I laughed. Because that's what I do when things get too real. You don't even know me. I know the metal, he replied. And I know that color doesn't belong on skin. My fingers went to the clasp without thinking, then stopped. I heard my daughter's voice in my head. Don't take it off. Clear as if she were standing there. It's important to her, I muttered. I don't know why I said that out loud. He watched my hand shake. Then it shouldn't be hurting you. That landed hard. I stared at the bracelet. The thin silver band. The spot near the clasp where the green tint had darkened since morning. I remembered how she fastened it for me, how she checked, how she reminded. For a second, I almost stood up and walked away, kept it on, told myself I was being dramatic, told myself love doesn't come with poison. Quick pause here. This is the part where denial feels safer than truth. I stood right there on that edge. Ma'am, he said, quieter now. Whatever this is, it's already past the point of wondering. That did it. I slid the clasp open. It resisted. Of course it did. My nails slipped. My pulse thudded in my ears. When it finally came loose, the bracelet dropped into my palm with a soft click. Nothing exploded. The world didn't end. I was still breathing, but the relief hit me like a wave. Sudden. Physical. Like my body had been holding its breath longer than I realized. I looked down at my wrist. The skin underneath was pale, tender, almost sore. I closed my hand around the bracelet and stood. I need to get this tested. He nodded once. Today, I didn't argue. I walked away with the metal burning cold in my fist, already knowing there was no putting it back on. The lab was tucked behind a dental office. No sign out front. Just a buzzer and a woman with tired eyes behind glass. I slid the bracelet across the counter in a paper bag, my hand still tingling where it used to sit. She lifted it with tweezers. How long have you been wearing this every day? I told her. All day. For a couple weeks. Her mouth tightened. We'll need to send this out. Come back tomorrow morning. I went home, but I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, staring at the empty space on my wrist until the sun came up. When the phone finally rang at 9 a.m., I was already in the lab's parking lot. You need to come back now, the woman told me. Her voice had lost its flatness. And bring someone if you can, inside. She didn't let me sit. She pointed to a printout. Colored bars, red ones clustered around the clasp. This is thallium, she explained, concentrated where it touches skin the most. I felt cold behind my eyes. That's rat poison. It used to be, she replied. It's cumulative. Slow. That's why you didn't collapse. So I asked the question that had been chewing me raw. Why didn't the doctors find it? She exhaled. Because no one looks for it unless there's a reason. Standard panels don't catch heavy metals. Not this one. The emergency room moved fast after that. IV in my arm. Fluids. A doctor with steady hands explained chelation, like he was talking about changing oil. We'll start treatment immediately, he told me. You're lucky. Lucky. That word again. I stared at the ceiling tiles and thought about the bracelet pressing into my wrist while I slept. Thought about the reminders. The checking. The timing. Quick pause. This is where fear turns into focus. Not panic. Focus. I asked for my phone. My fingers still worked. Even if my head felt foggy, I called the non-emergency number first. They were skeptical until I mentioned the lab report. Then the tone shifted. They told me to stay at the hospital and keep the bracelet in the evidence bag. An officer was already on the way to take a formal statement. A nurse leaned in close while adjusting the drip. Someone will come speak with you. I nodded. Good. Later, alone again. I looked at the empty space on my wrist. The skin there was angry, tender, clean. I closed my eyes and pictured my daughter fastening the clasp. The way her fingers lingered. The way she'd asked if I was wearing it. I opened my eyes and stared at the IV line. Clear liquid. Honest. Doing exactly what it was supposed to do. Who would want me sick, but not dead too quickly? The detective came back with a thin folder and a heavier look. Mid-40s. Careful voice. He laid papers on the tray like they might bite. Your daughter took out a policy on you. He told me. $200,000. Beneficiary listed as her. I stared at the name. My name. Her name. Ink doesn't blink. He kept going. Credit cards. Missed payments. A loan she hadn't mentioned. Another document showed a jeweler's invoice for modification. The clasp. The part that touched skin. He didn't have to point it out. I already knew. This wasn't an accident, he added. It was measured. I nodded. That was easier than breathing. They let me see her once. A small room. Table bolted down. She looked tired, angry. Not sorry. She opened with logistics. Mom, you don't understand how bad it got, she started. I was fixing it. By making me sick. I replied. My voice held. I don't know how. It wasn't supposed to. She stopped. Bit her lip. Tried again. You would have been fine. I leaned back. You checked if I wore it. Every night. Her eyes flicked away. That told me everything. Quick pause. This is where people expect shouting. Tears. A speech. I didn't have any of that left. I loved you. I told her. I just didn't know it came with a price. She went quiet. Finally, the legal process was a slow, agonizing crawl. It took nearly a year of hearings and evidence. But finally, the judge read the verdict. 20 years, attempted murder, insurance fraud. The words sounded clinical, like a diagnosis. When it was over, I walked out alone. My wrist felt lighter without the bracelet. My chest felt heavier without the illusion. Grief doesn't arrive all at once. It shows up in paperwork, in empty chairs, in a future that doesn't look the way you planned. Recovery was a slow, sterile process of blood draws and heavy silences. While my body healed, my world reshaped itself. The neighbors filled the gaps my daughter had left. Tom, a retired bus driver, showed up with chicken soup and no room for arguments. His wife, Lila, brought warm bread and a gaze that didn't require me to pretend I was fine. In therapy, I learned a vital truth: you don't have to forgive to move on. Some doors are meant to stay closed. The bracelet remained in a police evidence bag, but I no longer felt its weight. In its place, I wore a plain, leather-strapped watch. It didn't carry a bond or a hidden meaning. It simply told the time. Love doesn't require proof, and care shouldn't come with a price tag. I survived because I started paying attention to the whispers of my own body. One evening, as I sat at Lila's table, the setting sun hit my wrist. The skin was clear. The faint green stain finally gone. I took a bite of dinner, listening to the hum of honest conversation. The future was quieter now, but for the first time in years, it felt safe. If this story hit close, do me a favor, hit like, leave a comment, or subscribe. It helps these stories reach people who need them.